All right, let's get started. All right, so we are here. It is DocuSign day 2 of Baby Steps to DocuSign. This is how to create a room, create envelopes, find your documents, and send for signatures. So this is the fun stuff. Just remember, if you are not muted, please mute yourself. If you have a question, please unmute yourself, as I don't have anyone monitoring the chat for me. So yesterday we talked about how to make sure your command and DocuSign were connected, and then understanding the 2 platforms within DocuSign. So again, if you missed that class, I will send a video link out later today to show you what you missed. So we are going to start in command. We are going to search for a contact. This is assuming that we've already put the contact into our database and we are ready to start an opportunity or a transaction. We are going to click on the contact and then opportunities here. We're going to click create opportunity. This is one way of creating an opportunity. So when you get to this screen, you want to make sure everything is correct. We are going to be working on the buyer side of this. So I want to make sure that I click on buyer. And then the client already pops up, and I'm just going to name this as Emma Buyer Test Buyer. So if you're working on the buy side and you don't have a property address name yet, just put in the buyer's name and you can change that later on. Anything that has a red star next to it does need to be entered in. And again, this is just kind of getting to DocuSign, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. We are going to create an opportunity. Now it kind of, the website keeps changing, so we're going to X out of that for now and go into our opportunities tab. And now we are going to find where that opportunity went. So there are different, stages within buyers and sellers. So right now, again, not a command class, more of a DocuSign class. We're going to click on the opportunity. I want to make sure that I have my information in here, the contact, which I do. I'm going to skip over to the Documents tab. Again, we're still in command. And this is a buyer. Now, if you write anything down, this is important. In order for DocuSign and command to communicate with each other, you have to click this Start a Transaction button and click on DocuSign. So before you send anything out for signatures, you have to have your contact in your database and you have to have an opportunity set up.
I have a question, Emma. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So that person was under cultivate.
Yeah.
So I had a seller and that was cultivate that became active. How do you change them from cultivate to active?
It's very easy. So you just click and drag. And now they're inactive.
I tried that and I couldn't get it to work.
Sometimes it's sticky. Keep trying.
So just dragged it to?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so we're in our opportunity. We're in documents. We selected that this is a Massachusetts residential buyer. And again, this is very, very, very important. You have to click Start a Transaction DocuSign. You have to choose yourself as the agent, hit Confirm and Sync, and now this opens up a new tab and automatically brings you to DocuSign. You are going to be prompted to sign in. And then,
the lines is gone.
Sorry, what was that?
And then we're going to meet a friend, and then I'm meeting Diane, so we're going to meet up.
Oh, nice.
Sorry, can you mute yourself, please? Sorry.
Where you guys going?
Sorry.
We just sit in.
Okay. So Once we clicked that start a transaction button, it opened us into a new tab, and it opened up into DocuSign Rooms. Remember, 2 platforms. We are already in the right platform because we are working in the business. And it created a room for us called Emma Buyer Test Buyer. Now, if you look back, this is the same name as the opportunity. So that's great. So once you get here, I'm going to completely change the way you've most likely been using DocuSign. This tutorial is going over how to use shared templates, not forms. I don't like forms, okay? This is like a alternative way to using DocuSign, but I am guessing that this is going to be a lot more user-friendly for you. So forget everything you learned about DocuSign and follow along here. So we're going to start in that details tab and just make sure everything looks okay. For the purpose of this class, I'm not going to be filling in all this stuff on the left here. I find, don't get hung up with all these things that you have to enter in. Just make sure that the buyer 1 is entered here with an email and the name, and that you are listed here as the correct buyer or seller agent. Think of this as the bottom of your loop in dot loop where you would add people to the loop. So this is where you are adding people. Now I'm going to tell you, skip over documents. Do not click documents. Do not click people. Never add anyone to the people tab. If you look at this here, you can see that I'm here and then the Market Center and Linda are here. So anyone you add into this people tab is going to see your whole room. So don't add a listing agent to your people tab. Don't add your clients to your people tab. Just leave the people tab alone. I know you want to click it, but don't. We are going to click the envelopes tab. So again, this is using shared templates from the Market Center. We are going to create a new envelope. Think of envelopes as folders in dot loop. So we're working with a buyer and we are going to write an offer. So make sure that you rename your envelope name. If you don't do that, you are going to be stuck with 1,000 please DocuSign envelopes, and it's going to confuse you and you will not be able to find what you need. So make sure you are naming your envelopes. I'm thinking, if you have a buyer, you're really going to have 3 envelopes. 1 for the buyer consultation documents, 1 for the offer, and 1 for the purchase and sale. Very similar to these 3 categories here on the left in command. So we are not going to click Room Docs. We are going to click Use a Template. So most of you will probably have nothing under this My Templates tab. That's okay. Click on Shared with Me. This is where all of the master templates for the Keller Williams office live. Again, the website is still kind of wonky, so it better work for me right now. I just did it an hour ago. The website takes a while to load. Of course it's not going to work. Give me a second here. Okay, I'm in the wrong account. Oh my God, sorry. My bad. All right, so we're in my correct account now. So again, we're going to go into envelopes, create a new envelope. Call it offer. We're going to use a template. And under shared with me, hopefully it works this time. Again, it takes a while to load, perfect. So these are pretty much all of the documents that you would need for buying and selling. So when you start using these files, if there's something that's missing, let me know. If there's a document that you use on a regular basis that's missing, let me know and I can add it to the Market Center. So I personally added these all for Linda and for our Market Center. So if there's something missing, just let me know. So you can search by buyer and all of the buyer forms will pop up. Notice that buyer and seller forms are kind of segregated, where in .loop they'd be one. They're kind of segregated here. You can also type in mandatory, and you see these 3 packets here. So for those mentor students here, and you're working with Judy, make sure that you're clicking on the mandatory packets if you're using a buyer client, buyer offer, or listing packet. So you can pretty much assume that anything that you would need for an offer would be in here.
Hey, Emma,
Yeah,
what about New Hampshire?
New Hampshire is not in here right now.
Okay.
Talk to Linda, and if enough people want New Hampshire added in here, I can do it. I mean, I think eventually I should.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Until then, though, where do I find, are they in forms?
Probably, yeah. Check with Linda. So we are going to add this master template to our envelope. You can choose more than one template per envelope. So right now we're just going to use the offer packet, but if I also needed to add an agency disclosure, I could do that. It's already in the offer. Oh, it's actually not. So this is a good example. So we're going to add those templates. Now again, the website takes a while to load, but eventually all 3 templates are going to pop up. So you see we've got the agency disclosure, the offer, and the TRID. If I wanted to reorganize them, I could.
Emma,
So, yes.
I have a question. I don't know if I'm getting ahead a little bit, but I just, so for the places that you I ran into it on the exclusive.
Gail, you know what? Why don't we ask that at the end, okay? Sorry,
Sure.
I don't want
Yep.
to lose people.
No problem.
All
Sure.
right. So we have the documents that we need. If I had one that I didn't need, let's say we already had the agency signed, I'm just going to remove it. Now I'm going to use this example as this is an offer that we are writing. So we have to add the lead paint in the seller's disclosure form. These are not templates. These are forms that I downloaded from the MLS listing. So if I have to add something that's not a template, I can by using the More button and upload, or by clicking and dragging. Oops. Maybe you can't click and drag. All right, so we're just going to upload manually here. So I went ahead and downloaded an offer and a seller's, a lead paint disclosure and a seller's disclosure. So you notice the difference here. This is a PDF and this is a template, because these are templates and this is something that I manually uploaded from another person's MLS. So now, before we edit the documents, I have to add everyone that needs to sign a form. So I'm going to use pre-tagged roles. Pre-tagged roles are from the templates. So I'm just going to select who the pre-tagged role is. In this case, it's me as the buyer, and click on Add Selected. Now I know because I have a lead paint disclosure here, I also have to sign that as the agent. So because I am a room participant, I will add myself that way. So once we have everyone that we need to sign, don't mess around with the signing order and don't really mess around with these buttons unless you're advanced. We are going to click on Next. This is not going to send it, but it is going to bring you up to where you edit the documents. So there is a lot of formatting with these forms, and just pretty much leave them the way they are. If you need to add another text box for some reason, instead of clicking and dragging one, You see how the formatting is different? Don't do that. Just copy and paste one of the forms that's already there. Okay, that's gonna hold onto the formatting. Now, I spent like weeks figuring out these formats, so don't really mess around with them too much. Because if any of you were running into problems with only buyer 1 sees what I wrote, or buyer 2 doesn't see what I wrote, or I need to view it before the envelope is completed, that all has to do with formatting. So I've fixed all of that. If you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. Just stick to the forms. So very similar to dot loop, we can go through and add everything that we need to. If it says put your name here, well, put your name here. Now, you cannot use a full name tag for yourself because it will mess up formatting. So if there is not a full name tag there, there's a reason why it's not there. A little more manual entry than dot loop, but that's okay. You see Keller Williams North Central is here. So you would go through, add everything in. You see the signature is already assigned to the buyer. If I needed to switch it to the agent, I could do that. It's color coded. So everything is assigned to the buyer. So that's templates, okay? Easy peasy, everything is there. I just have to fill in the blanks. Now this is the lead paint
Can I
form.
ask you a question?
Yeah.
So about the lead paint, say I'm working on a listing, and I'm sorry not to, maybe this isn't the right venue, but I put the
Go ahead.
places in for them to be able to check the boxes, and they didn't check them. I couldn't check them for them after I had a conversation with them about which boxes should be checked. And so it appeared that they had to check the boxes, but then it allowed them not to check the boxes. So do we just
Let's
have
talk
to have a
about that.
conversation?
Let's do that at the end.
Okay.
All right, so this is a form now. We've gone through the templates that have all of the pre-tagged settings. Now we are going to a form that is not a template. So this is something that came in from MLS. So you are going to have to manually add these initials. So you can, make them smaller. And once you do make them smaller, it does, save the last size that you created, which is nice. So we're just going to add those initials in. Add a checkbox and click it. Add another initial. Now this is from me, the agent, so I have to make sure to color code it to the agent. Same thing here. Purchaser assigned to the buyer. I need a date signed tag. Now, if you put the date signed tag all the way to the right, it's going to overlap onto this box. So kind of put it centered. Okay, so this is assigned to the buyer. I'm going to click and drag and copy and click the location where I want it to go. Right click and say paste to location, and it's going to bring it to exactly where I need it to go. I just have to remember to assign it to myself. All right. So same thing here with the seller's disclosure. I just have to go in and add initials to every page. Now, if you're looking for shortcuts, if you click the shortcuts button, it's going to show you everything that you can do to save time, which is great. So if I wanted to copy this and paste to location. So what we're doing here is we have used a template and a manually added file. So once we have everything where it needs to go, I can preview it as the buyer. So this recipient preview button, if I toggle back, I can see it as me, the buyer, or me, the listing agent. Everything that we typed in manually is showing up. If I go down to the lead paint, everything I need to do is here.
Emma,
Yes.
if I can ask a quick question. I noticed you didn't put the zip code in
Where? Which form?
on the offer.
Oh yeah, I was just kind of like trying to save some time.
The reason I ask is I did an offer the other day, and when I put in the zip code, I kept getting something that the state didn't recognize, that mail code or something.
Are you using the shared templates?
No, I didn't know they existed at the time. But,
Yeah, it's probably a flaw within the forms.
Okay.
So the forms have a lot of flaws. That's why I kind of really love the shared templates more.
Okay.
I think you'll run into less glitches.
Okay.
So we have everything ready. We are going to hit send. Now, we have not signed as the agent. It's a little bit different than .loop. You cannot sign as the agent while you're editing the forms. You have to manually sign. So in my little user guide, it's going to show you the 4 phases of an envelope. And if you haven't printed this out, I would suggest doing that. So there are 4 phases. One is a draft. One is when I, as the agent, need to sign. One is when I'm waiting for my clients to sign, and one is completed. So familiarize yourself with all of those different types of envelopes. The biggest thing to know is once it's completed, you cannot edit that envelope. So I'm going to click on this as the agent and sign. So this is my real signature. Very user-friendly, very similar to .loop. It will bring me to everywhere I need to sign, and I'm going to hit finish. So that will reload the screen and show me now that my envelope is waiting for others. Important to note, I can still go in here and correct it or edit it if I need to, because I'm still in the blue phase of an envelope. You can also view the envelope history similar to the activity log in .loop. Once this turns green and the buyer has signed, I cannot change it. So I'm going to go in as the buyer now. And this is me as the buyer. I'm going to go through and click. Now, one thing to notice is, you see how this says Pacific Coast Time? Remember we talked about the time zones yesterday? If and when your client first opens DocuSign, it's going to say, we want to allow to know your location. Most people probably click, oh, I don't want them to know my location. That is what will trigger the time zone to change. So if your clients are clicking don't know my location, then they're automatically going to default to Pacific Coast Time. So in order for the Eastern time zone to pop up, they have to click on allow to know my location. So I'm clicking through everything. Very easy, very similar to .loop. This is me as the consumer. Still have to hit finish. It's going to ask me if I want to log in. I'm going to say no. So now, back as the agent, once they have signed, and again, website still glitchy, even more than it was last week, because this should be showing as signed, and it's not. So So when it's showing as completed, what it normally looks like is a green banner. Okay, here, I was probably just not being patient. Completed. So remember, when you're looking back in your phases of an envelope, it's completed. I cannot edit this. So think of this as an actual envelope. Once everyone has physically signed, you can't change it. There's no more edit or correct button. So now where do those documents go? This is when we go into the Documents tab. Now notice there is this folder called Room Docs. Think of this as your desktop or your root folder. This is where everything will automatically go. So before we even start looking at these, I'm going to add under Actions 3 folders. One called Buyer Consult, and this is the buyer side. One called Offer, and one called P&S. So now I have 3 folders, again, very similar to what is here in Command and what is, sorry, I just lost my train of thought, and what is in your envelopes. So ideally, you will have an offer envelope, a buyer consult envelope, and a P&S envelope. So, you know, everything is, you know, very similar when you get it organized, but you will have to physically manually add those folders. And this again,
Where was, you said Actions, where was that?
on the right here, if you click on Actions and click Add Folder.
Oh, maybe the people are in front of it. I can't see. Everyone's
That's probably definitely, yeah.
Okay.
So again, that's my best practice. And someone said, oh, this will help Linda. It's not going to help Linda. This is going to help you. There is a distinction between DocuSign and Command. DocuSign is not compliance. DocuSign is signing documents, right? So this is going to help you stay organized for tomorrow when we upload documents for compliance. So again, this Room Docs, think of this as a desktop folder. This is where everything automatically goes. So once you have your offer signed, you notice it says it's a little green banner, again, kind of like the envelope. You're going to click and sign these signed documents into the offers folder. So I don't know what for you that were using forms, you probably had a lot of duplicates, right? You notice that you don't have as many duplicates. If you're using templates, there is no duplication. There is only one signed version because you used a template. Now remember, we manually uploaded the lead paint and the seller's disclosure. So there are duplicates there. This is the original, not the signed. So we're just gonna right click and archive. And you can do, you know, every time you archive, it reloads the screen. You can do more than one. So you can click them in the top left and click on that archive button. Now don't worry, they don't disappear. So up on the top, you can toggle between active, archived, or all. So once we go to active, it looks a lot cleaner and more organized. So remember, you have to manually add those folders for yourself. And my best suggestion is to order them this way. And again, this is in that guide for buyers and for sellers. Now, this is in a perfect world. Of course, every once in a while, you're going to need an extension or, you know, a counter offer. So that's kind of a very brief overview of how to get your documents signed. I know it's 10:30. Some of you might have to leave. We can start with the Q&A in a couple of minutes. I just want to show you very quickly if you needed to download all of these forms, you can select them and click on download. It will individually download all 4 forms into a zip file. If you wanted to combine them, you have them all clicked and you can just click this combine button and say offer docs. Now there is a way to send documents out this way. We'll get to that on Thursday under tips and tricks for DocuSign. But you notice we just combined all these 4 documents into one. So again, it's automatically going into that Room Docs desktop folder. We can click and drag if we want. Now, Linda does not want the documents combined for compliance. So if you're trying to combine them to make your life easier, don't do that. Linda wants each one of these forms individually uploaded. And that's what we'll go over tomorrow. One last thing before questions. As the consumer, once an envelope is completed and everyone is signed, I am getting an email with all of these signed documents in individual PDF form. So you no longer have to manually send and share documents once they've been signed. So that's kind of a brief overview of sending documents out for signatures. Now let's open it up for questions.
Emma, I have a quick question on that last note you made. So if you have a situation where you're copying the other side and their signature, the envelope only includes, let's say your listing, and it only includes the buyer's signature, only the recipients of that envelope will get that final email, right? So my seller wouldn't get it if they had signed a prior envelope, and now I've got the buyer envelope, if you will.
Right, right. So it's just for whatever document you are doing. So if you're working with a buyer and they sign the offer, they're only getting their version of the signed offer. They're not getting a completely signed offer.
Thank you.
Good distinction. What other questions do we have?
Excuse me, I have a question. I just had an offer that I submitted to the listing agent. It came back. He had his people don't have email or whatever, so he wet signed it, sent it all back to me as a PDF, but there was a change in the closing date, which my buyers have to initial. So he said, what do I have to do? Just download the thing? And
yeah, so you would manually download that. So let's do an example. So if I had, these are my signed documents, and I'm just going to archive this to keep it clean. So we have our signed offer, and now we need to go in and make a change because the listing agent wants a different closing date. You're going to go back into envelopes, and again, my best practice would be go into envelopes anytime you need to send something out for a signature. Create a new envelope and name it counter offer. And we're going to go into more depth on this on Thursday because there are 2 ways to kind of do this, and I'm just showing you one. Oops. I guess you can't click and drag manual files. So these are all the offer documents that we need to have initialed for a change. Again, it's a PDF, it's not a template because we can't create a template for something someone else sends us. So when we add recipient, we're going to add from the room participant, add buyer 1 and go to next. Now the only flaw with this method is that all of the old signatures are still here. I know where in .loop you could make it a simple change and it would clean out the signatures. That's not how it works here. So under this markup tool, you can make a line. So red line, and then put in the new text. Now there might be some flaws with this because these text boxes are not formatted correctly.
Now he did it again. It was manually, so really all I want to do is just initial the changes.
Oh, so he already made the changes. So
yeah.
So all you'd have to do is add an initial.
Oh, okay.
And then send it.
Okay.
Very easy.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. And again, I would just really stick to creating envelopes. See, I forgot to rename this envelope. I should have named it counter, because now it's kind of confusing. But once that's signed, it's going to pop up under the root folder in Room Docs, and then I can click and drag it to the right file folder. What other questions do we have? Again, this is not using forms. This is using templates, which I think are really going to help you. They're much more easier. I know one big complaint in forms is that you couldn't use multiples of the same form. You can do that in envelopes. So if you create a new envelope, and say you wanted to add an agency disclosure, but you had a showing agent that you also wanted to add, you just go in and select another one. And then there are two. So if you're thinking, how do I personalize these for myself? That is Friday's class. So make sure you tune in for Friday's class. If you're overwhelmed, which I know a lot of you are, my suggestion, which has worked well with some people, is just start slow and easy. Don't try to send out 20 forms right away. Try sending out an agency disclosure under templates and see how that goes. It will, be much more easier if you do one document as a test before you try to take on the whole listing packet.
Emma, you said that you can't have people added because they'll see everything. So if we're used to having like attorneys, appraisers, paralegals, all that type of stuff in our, per se, loops, is there a place in Command that we can add them to email them all these documents, or do we have to download them into a file in our laptops?
So that's a good point. I mean, you can add vendors under people if you wanted to add your attorney there, or, appraiser. I just, well, appraiser maybe not, because if they see all the, repair riders and everything, that would be good. So one easy way within DocuSign is if you have a document that you want to send out, let's say we wanted to send this offer, you could, in theory, select them all, click on that email button, and send a quick email to your attorney. If that kind of helps.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but this is the most similar way to sharing things through Dotloop.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Will it remember their email address, like auto-populate over time if you use it over and over again?
I think your computer will.
Okay.
So, I just typed in David, so
Right.
I think your computer will. I don't think DocuSign will, but your computer should. Any other thoughts? So again, remember, go through, try one form using templates shared with me. And if you see something that is not here that you use on a daily frequent basis, let me know. I'm happy to add them into our Market Center files. Once again, you can search by typing in buyer or seller or packet or mandatory if you're in the mentor program, or if you just need one document, you can search it. All right, any last questions?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Hopefully
Thank you,
I'll
Emma.
You're welcome. I'll
Thank
see you
you.
guys tomorrow for compliance, okay?
All righty.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye.
Emma. I got it worked out.
Oh, good, good.